Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Bob Burnett from Barefoot Mining here with episode 4 of Old Man Yells. The other day, I did a recording on the explosion in fees, and I thought I was done with the topic. I actually kind of thought the Bitcoin Twitter and all of us maybe would wane on that topic quickly, but turns out I was wrong. And the discussion about block space and these fees has kind of erupted. I almost feel some divisiveness within the community. And so I'm going to talk a little more about it and my perspective here. I've seen a lot about what is the blockchain? What is it used for? What is Bitcoin itself? Some people questioning the very identity. Are ordinals of fair use? Are some of the BSV developers who are working on this, should we let them do that? Are the miners making too much money? All these sort of things are kind of rattling around. I think it's time for a deep breath, time to relax. This is not an end of the world situation for Bitcoin. I don't believe it's a fork in the road, no pun intended, for the Bitcoin world. Certainly no reason for a fork. But I think it's a great opportunity to kind of sit back and think about what we're doing, what we stand for. What is this thing, Bitcoin, that has maybe morphed a little bit, not only from its original intention, but maybe even from what it was when some of us got involved. Let's step back for a second. We'll go to the white paper again. First few words of the white paper. A purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash. Very simple. On the surface, it certainly talks about Bitcoin being money. I think most people accept that and would not dispute that. But maybe what we forget some is that in the Genesis block, there was a message. The embedded message was the Times, 3rd of January, 2009, Chancellor on the brink. So Satoshi, from the very beginning, actually the first transaction was not about money because the Genesis block was unspendable money. The Genesis block, its lasting value to the world, was the message. And he left it for all of us to interpret what that message is, but it's there nevertheless. I think when we sit back after 14 years of studying and philosophizing, one of the things we can maybe realize is that we do live in a different world than Satoshi. At least the world that Satoshi was in at the time that he created Bitcoin. And we live in a world where things like history being reshaped, where words are losing their meaning, where AI threatens our identity, that our very work may be a threat from deep fakes, where we could envision a world where even we question our own reality. We're borrowing from 1984, a world where we may find factions trying to tell us that 2 + 2 is 5 and question the very essence of truth. So Bitcoin, it certainly transfers and stores value. And if you're like me, you believe that delivering this tool to humanity is critical to a free and prosperous world. It drives me. I've talked about this before. The world that I want for my kids and my grandkids and their kids needs to be that kind of world. The only thing that maybe could rival that in importance is protection of the truth itself. And what's crystallized for me is that at our point, humans have really no real point of truth. It's crystallized to me that, we can't trust really and completely any aspect of history. And we can say with high probability about certain things. Certainly, those things that we've directly experienced, but truth itself gets kind of foggy. And maybe the only point of human created truth are the transactions sitting on the blockchain. Because we can say without question that the information held there is exactly as the initiator wished. And it was sent in an exact order relative to all of the transactions. Both things unchangeable once they're recorded on the blockchain. What that means is there is another purpose of Bitcoin, whether it was the original intention or not. And that intention, that capability, is as a message service to the future, where all the message recipients of the future, all the people looking at the Bitcoin blockchain can know with certainty that the message is genuine. When you think about this, it makes perfect sense, since Satoshi's greatest innovation was solving the Byzantine general issue, which, as you probably know, is the problem of establishing truth in a message. I don't see value in the current ordinal push, but I support the right of those who wish to try and record whatever is important to them on that blockchain. I don't think the miners and the nodes should change their behaviors, try to censor, try to use some sort of prejudice to prioritize certain transactions over others, at least especially from the perspective of censorship. I think we all, as miners, have a duty often, if we have shareholders, to maximize the value. What I can say is that I would be very upset if members of the mining community, whether it's at the miner level or the pool level, and I guess I'll throw the node people in as well, if people start to try to censor, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to push back against that. I can promise you that Barefoot won't ever do that. Block space is infinite ultimately, but in any given window of time, it's almost as absolutely scarce as the Bitcoin money supply itself. We have a maximum of 4 megabytes approximately every 10 minutes. That's it. There's really nothing we can do to ever change that. So while this backlog will lessen eventually, maybe it's a few days, maybe it's a few weeks, maybe it's a few months, I don't know. It will fall back. My guess, not to the levels that it was at before, where fees were 0.15, 0.25 per block. I don't think we'll fall back there. I think we're seeing that increased activity. But those that have interacted frequently with the base layer really have had the benefit of a luxury. And I hate to say it, but I think that that is coming to an end. Now, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but its days are numbered, where individual people with small transactions, maybe even several times per day, go and interact with it. Those days are honestly over. This is going to be an absolutely precious commodity. And when you do interact with it, either at the individual level or the corporate level, I believe it will be a planned event. You'll think about it ahead of time. You'll make sure that everything you want to accomplish is done in that transaction. But what you are going to know is that when you wish to do that, Bitcoin's always open for business. It will always execute and do exactly what you wish. And you know that once it's there, it's completely secure. That's a super, super valuable tool. But it will come with a cost commensurate with the value that it brings. With that, I will say good night. And hopefully this is the last of this topic. Good night.